My name's Tyler Briggs. I'm a 39-year-old white guy living just outside Macon, Georgia, in a one-story rental with paint-chipped shutters and a busted porch swing that only works if you sit in it sideways. I'm a single dad, part-time auto mechanic, and up until about 8 months ago, I was also the acoustic guitarist for Faith Stone Baptist. Your typical Southern church with too many casseroles and a stained glass window of Jesus that looked vaguely like Kenny Loggins. Faith Stone was a second home for me after the divorce. Playing guitar during Sunday service, Wednesday night choir rehearsals, youth camps, music was the thing that kept me sane. It wasn't just about faith. It was about having a reason to show up. A reason to keep my weekends out of a bottle and my thoughts out of dark corners. My son Mason is 10. Sweet kid. Loves baseball and weirdly sea otters. He'd sit in the second pew every Sunday, legs swinging, mouthing the words to old hymns even if he didn't understand them. That sight alone made me show up every week like clockwork. That and the quiet. Church was peaceful, predictable, until Brady Connolly showed up. Now let me describe Brady. Imagine a guy who looks like he learned to smile in front of a mirror with perfect teeth and a haircut that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. 28, fresh out of seminary, newly minted youth pastor. Designer shoes. Rolex that gleamed like it had been baptized in motor oil. The kind of guy who'd call his sermons talks and say things like, "Let's unpack that." He arrived after the previous youth pastor retired. Pastor Gary, old school, kind-hearted, owned 3 pairs of slacks total. Brady was the anti-Gary. Charismatic, polished, loud in every way. The kind of guy people instantly trusted, mostly because he acted like they already should. At first, I thought he was just another ambition case. You know the type. Big vision. Bigger ego. I stayed out of his way. I wasn't on staff. I didn't do ministry meetings or leadership retreats. I just played guitar, fixed my son's Pop-Tart breakfasts, and rotated tires for a living. But then I noticed Brady talking to my ex-wife, Carrie. A lot. Now Carrie and I split 3 years ago. No shouting. No flying dishes. Just slow rot. She said she needed someone more driven. I said I needed someone less obsessed with her Pilates instructor. We signed the papers, divided the furniture, and split custody 50-50ths under Georgia law. Mason became the only thing we did halfway well together. When I saw Brady talking to her after service, leaned in, hand on her shoulder, laughing too loud at things she barely smiled at, I felt it in my gut. That old churn. I didn't say anything. I've learned to wait. But the next Sunday, Mason tells me, all casual, Mr. Brady came over for dinner. He brought us cookies. Cookies. That was when I knew I wasn't just losing a church. I was about to get steamrolled. And I hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. You ever hear someone talk about you like you're a ghost? Like you're already gone and they're just deciding how to explain it to everyone? That was the flavor of my next few weeks at Faith Stone. It started subtle. I'd walk into Wednesday night rehearsal and people who used to ask about Mason's baseball games would suddenly find their sheet music fascinating. The church secretary, Miss Darlene, bless her hairspray-welded head, stopped giving me the extra bulletins like she used to. Small stuff. But it added up. Then came the call. "Tyler, hey, it's Mary Hall," said the voice on the other end of the line. She was a soprano in the choir, late 60s, and the only person I knew who could eat peanut brittle while wearing dentures and still look elegant. "You doing okay?" she asked, all gentle and sweet. "Far as I know," I said. "Why?" A pause. I could almost hear her weighing whether she should continue. "Well, people have been talking. Something about you stepping back from church. Voluntarily. Is that true?" Now, I'm not the type to cause a scene. I once drove 5 miles with a bee in my car because I didn't want to crash or roll down the window in traffic. But this? This made my jaw tighten. "No, Mary," I said. "It sure isn't." She sighed. "I thought as much. You take care of yourself now." Click. The next day, I walked into the church office unannounced. Pastor Jenkins, the senior pastor, was sitting behind his desk, eating what looked like a microwave Salisbury steak and watching reruns of Matlock on mute. A man of simple routines. I asked him directly, "Has something been said about me?" He looked like I'd asked for his social security number. "Well, Brother Brady did bring up some concerns." "Such as?" He shifted. "He's worried you've been emotionally withdrawn. That maybe the stress of the divorce has lingered. He suggested it might be time to step back from public roles. Just until you feel more centered." I sat down hard. I've been playing guitar for 6 years, Chuck, I said, using his first name for the first time in my life. Nobody's ever said a word. Now I'm unstable because I tune my guitar quieter than Brady likes his sermons. Pastor Jenkins didn't answer. Just looked away, chewing his mystery meat like it had wronged him personally. That Sunday, I wasn't on stage. My spot on the music roster? Gone. My name on the volunteer bulletin? Replaced by TBD. And then came the final insult. After service, during the fellowship potluck, I went to get a plate of roast beef faithfully brought each week by Mrs. Lois, who once mistook a bottle of cayenne for cinnamon and nearly sent the youth group to the ER and was told the volunteer meals were for active contributors only. No guitar. No bulletin name. No roast beef. Brady, meanwhile, was working the room like a politician on a sugar high. Shaking hands. Kissing babies. His arm around Carrie like it belonged there. And for the first time in years I felt angry. Not just bruised. Not just tired. I mean deep bone, coffee bitter angry. He wanted me gone? Fine. But first I'd show him just how unstable I could really be. I didn't burn down the church. Not literally. That'd be arson and I don't look good in orange. But let me tell you, if you ever want to watch a man in a tailored suit squirm like a Pentecostal at a silent prayer meeting, all you need is a cheap phone, a little patience, and a good memory. After the roast beef incident, and yes, that's what I've been calling it in my head ever since, I decided I wasn't going to fight this thing head-on. You ever wrestle a pig? The pig enjoys it and you both end up covered in mud. That's how I saw Brady. No, what I needed was leverage. Not gossip. Not confrontation. Proof. Cold, hard, Baptist-approved receipts. So I bought a burner phone. Nothing fancy. $40 at Walmart. I named it Revelations. Installed a voice recorder app, cleared the storage, and started keeping it with me in a jacket pocket anytime I was within a mile of that church. And here's the thing, Brady loved to talk. The man had the spiritual depth of a puddle in August, but he could monologue like a televangelist trying to sell a prayer towel for $19.95. He didn't see me anymore, not really. After they paused my volunteer work, I started coming to events more sporadically. Always in the background. Setting up chairs. Hanging near the AV booth. Just part of the scenery. Which made it easy to record. One night, after youth group wrapped, I caught him talking to Carrie in the hallway. I was stacking chairs. They didn't even notice me. She's got her issues, he said in that half-whisper meant to sound confidential and just loud enough to be overheard. I'm just trying to protect Mason from the influence. Carrie sighed. Tyler's not dangerous, Brady. He shrugged. Maybe not, but he's erratic. Isolation. Mood shifts. Avoidance behavior. I mean, he spends more time with that guitar than he does with people. Which is rich coming from a man who once gave a 15-minute sermon on how many followers he gained on Instagram after a particularly powerful youth night. I got it all. Every word. And over the next month I got a lot more. Brady mocking tithers. Brady hinting to another board member that some budget lines could be flexed if he needed a new laptop. Brady laughing about sidelining the sad dad with a God complex, that'd be me in case it's not obvious. But the cherry on the sundae? One Thursday evening after youth Bible study where I was lurking in the hallway like a ghost with a clipboard, I caught him talking to a local businessman. I'm thinking about running for county commissioner, Brady said, slick and confident. I've got the church in my pocket. Instant constituency. Small-town politics is just about optics and Sunday handshakes. The businessman asked something I couldn't hear. Brady chuckled. Let's just say if anyone digs too deep, I'll call it spiritual warfare. He winked. He winked. I damn near dropped the phone. See, Brady didn't just want the church. He wanted power. Prestige. Influence. And if he had to use my son, my ex-wife, and a congregation full of sweet old ladies who think TikTok is a breath mint, he would. Fine. I had recordings. Motive. Timeline. Now I just needed someone who could set the match. And I knew exactly who to call. There's a moment right before you do something big when the nerves hit you like a freight train. Your palms go sweaty. Your heartbeat starts doing jazz. And your brain starts asking dumb questions like, is this illegal? Is this petty? What if this makes me look crazy? But then I remembered Brady saying he had the church in his pocket. And I remembered my son telling me how Brady brought his own pillow over for sleepovers at my house when Carrie had custody. So I opened my laptop and wrote an email. I didn't go to the cops. I didn't call the church board. Those people either wouldn't care or would find a way to sweep it all under the rug. This was small-town Georgia, where church reputation sometimes matters more than what Jesus would actually do. Instead, I found someone who made a living off shining lights in dark places. Stephanie York, reporter for the Macon Ledger, known around here for doing real journalism, rare in a place where most news is livestock auctions and high school football scores. She'd done exposés on shady contractors, misused hurricane relief funds, even one story that got a city councilman booted for funneling donations into a strip mall that never got built. So I sent her the first few clips. Not everything, just enough to whet her appetite. I didn't sign it. Just wrote. There's more. This pastor isn't who he claims to be. You'll find hypocrisy, manipulation, and potential financial misconduct. Let me know if you want the rest. She replied in less than 24 hours. Let's talk. In person. Your terms. Name the spot. We met 2 days later in the back of a nearly empty Waffle House on Highway 49. I wore my work jacket. She wore a denim blazer that made her look more like a middle school vice principal than a professional arsonist of reputations. I handed her a flash drive. You verify this before you use anything, I said. It's all real? Just make sure you know what you're stepping into. The man's got charm and a following. She nodded and said, I've brought down 2 mayors. I can handle a youth pastor. Fair point. Then she asked me the question I wasn't ready for. Why do this anonymously? You'd be a hell of a source on record. I stirred the lukewarm coffee. Because this isn't about revenge. Not really. It's about truth. And I've got a 10-year-old who's already been yanked through enough mess. Let him find out what kind of man Brady really is the right way, not through a custody battle. She didn't press me. Just stood, thanked me, and said if even a fraction of this checks out, it's going to be one hell of a Sunday. She was wrong. It dropped on Tuesday. Front page, digital, and print. Youth Pastor's True Sermon, Manipulation, Money, and Mayhem Behind the Pulpit. The article laid it all out. Brady's quotes, timestamped and transcribed. Details about his budget flexibility and the sudden uptick in church AV expenses, which apparently included a $1,200 content creation retreat in Atlanta. The conversations with my ex. The part about him mocking volunteers. The political ambition. All of it. Stephanie didn't name me, but the fingerprints were clear. And boy, did it explode. Church Facebook pages lit up. The prayer chain turned into a gossip hotline. Parents yanked their kids from youth group. Members demanded an emergency board meeting. Half the deacons looked like they aged 5 years in 2 days. And Brady? For the first time since I met him, the man looked mortal. Gone was the confident smirk. Gone was the strut. He gave a shaky statement about being misunderstood, said the audio was taken out of context, and blamed a targeted spiritual attack. But the nails were already in the coffin. I hadn't even said a word. I just hit send. There's a unique silence that happens when a church scandal breaks. It's not the regular kind of quiet like a power outage or a winter snow day. No, this is the suffocating, polite Southern kind. The kind where no one says a word, but everybody knows. Eyes linger longer in grocery store aisles. Ladies in pastel cardigans speak in whispered tones over the sweet tea. And everyone avoids saying the name Brady like it might summon him from the shadows. The Tuesday the article dropped, I didn't go to work. I took the day off and drove out to High Falls State Park, found a bench by the river, and just sat with my thoughts. I should have felt satisfied. Triumphant, even. Instead, I felt unsettled. I didn't feel guilty. But it wasn't joy either. I'd spent 3 months playing the long game, recording, archiving, compiling, and now the grenade had gone off. It was too quiet after the bang. Then my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I let it ring out. Voicemail came through 30 seconds later. I played it. Tyler, this is Pastor Jenkins. I don't know if you've seen the news, I imagine you have. We're doing damage control as best we can, but, well, we need to talk. I bet you do, Chuck. The next day, a letter went out to the congregation from the board. Official statement. Carefully worded phrases like pending review and investigation into financial oversight and our commitment to transparency. No mention of the leaked recordings. No mention of the fact that half the youth ministry had already pulled their kids out of the program. Brady issued his own statement through Facebook Live. Bad idea. His hands were shaking, eyes puffy, and for the first time he wasn't wearing his trademark Rolex. He called the accusations part of a coordinated attack on my character, invoked spiritual warfare at least 5 times, and ended the video by saying, "I forgive the person who did this. I pray for your healing." I watched it twice. Once for content, once for entertainment. Carrie called me that night. "I didn't know about the budget stuff," she said, sounding like someone who just realized their prize-winning pie had been baked with salt instead of sugar. "I didn't know he said those things." "You knew enough," I said. "You just didn't want to look too close." She didn't argue. I respected that. The board met in an emergency session on Thursday. Brady didn't show. Word spread that he'd already packed up his office the night before and left town to reflect. By Friday, it was official: resignation accepted. No apology from the pulpit. No farewell sermon. No laying on of hands. Just gone. And suddenly, I wasn't the unstable one anymore. Funny how that works. I didn't show up that Sunday. The church invited me back, said they wanted to right some wrongs, offered me my old spot in the worship band like nothing had happened. I told them I appreciated it, but no thank you. They'd seen me bleeding and looked the other way. Now they wanted to pretend I just had a nosebleed. I wasn't going to play along. That chapter was closed. But I wasn't finished yet. Because Brady hadn't just tanked his church career. He'd also filed candidacy paperwork to run for county commissioner. And guess what didn't go away just because he changed towns? My recordings. Brady Connolly didn't stay gone for long. 2 weeks after his resignation, he resurfaced like a bad penny in a County 1 zip code over New Bib, population 12,000, give or take the raccoons. It's the kind of place where name recognition matters more than credentials, and folks still vote based on who their neighbor's cousin went to high school with. Which made it the perfect spot for a comeback tour. He didn't go back to ministry. No, that would have required humility, reflection, and, I don't know, repentance. Instead, he pivoted to politics, announced his bid for county commissioner with a new haircut, new social media handle, and a crisp new slogan. Integrity. Leadership. Faith. I swear I nearly choked on my coffee. He dropped a campaign video the next day. Grainy B-roll of him shaking hands at a farmer's market, walking through an empty church, not ours, and sitting next to a golden retriever he definitely didn't own. Voiceover talked about restoring trust in leadership and bringing moral clarity to local government. The comments section was a parade of amens and emojis. But it didn't take long before someone tagged the Macon Ledger under the post. Then another. And another. By the end of the day, Stephanie York's article from Faith Stone was trending locally again. Old screenshots started popping up. Quotes about budget flexibility, about church in my pocket, about sidelining the sad dad. No one knew exactly where they came from, but people remembered. Still, Brady didn't flinch. That's the thing about guys like him: they don't believe consequences apply. They think charisma is a shield. But charisma won't stop what I had in my hand. You see, after the church scandal broke, I held onto a few of the recordings. Not for revenge. Not even for leverage. Just instinct. And I dug back into them recently, really listened. There was one particular clip I hadn't shared with the paper. Back when Brady was still cozy with Carrie. They were talking in the lounge after a service. My phone had been tucked behind a binder of hymnals. "I just think the divorce hit him harder than he lets on," Brady said, voice low, syrupy. "He's fragile. I mean, if it wasn't for Mason, I don't know how grounded he'd even be." Carrie replied, "He's always been a good father, though." Brady didn't hesitate. Good fathers don't hide from leadership. They don't get bitter. Tyler's stuck. That's dangerous. People like that, they get unpredictable. Now in Georgia, there's a law called OCGA Section 21-2-6, which says candidates for public office must demonstrate good moral character. Now, that's vague as all hell, but it's also political gold if you've got the right dirt. So I did what any Southern man with a bone to pick and a stable Wi-Fi connection would do. I made a Dropbox folder titled Leadership: A Closer Look. Inside it, select audio clips, transcripts, a PDF of the original Ledger article, even a timeline graphic. Then I created a Gmail account under a fake name, Concerned Bibsitizen 84, and sent the link to every local reporter, rival candidate, school board member, and yes, pastor in New Bibb County. Subject line: "Before you vote, you should hear this." I hit send. Then I shut my laptop, took Mason out for pizza, and never said a word. but I checked the local Facebook groups that night. And oh, how the fire spread. You know that saying, all politics is local? In New Bibb County, it's downright personal. Brady's campaign imploded like a folding chair under a linebacker, and it all started with a PTA mom named Rhonda March. She was the one who posted the Dropbox link in a community group called Bibtown Proud! Exclamation mark required, along with the caption. Y'all hear this yet? This who's running for commissioner. By morning, the comments were biblical. This man calls himself a Christian? I always said he gave me car salesman vibes. Bless his heart, but he sounds like the devil with a PR degree. Within 48 hours, Brady's Facebook campaign page went from 1,200 likes to a ghost town. His original launch video? Taken down. His Twitter? Locked. Even the yard signs, of which there were many, started disappearing from lawns overnight. I don't know who took them down. I'm just saying, I saw a few show up in the local recycling center with duct tape over the integrity part. Now here's where it gets interesting. Brady tried to pivot hard. He posted a statement claiming he'd been maliciously targeted by a disgruntled former associate and that the recordings were taken out of context in a coordinated smear campaign. His favorite phrase, apparently. But the problem with being a hypocrite on tape is people believe their own ears. There's only so many ways you can explain calling church members ATM machines with guilt complexes. Stephanie York wrote a follow-up piece, this time titled, From Pulpit to Politics, the Collapse of a Fast-Rising Local Candidate. She didn't mention me by name again, but she didn't have to. She included new quotes from folks in our old church. Even Pastor Jenkins chimed in, saying something about how Brady's tenure was brief but formative, which is the diplomatic way of saying the man lit the curtains on fire and we're still coughing up smoke. At this point, Brady started doing damage control the only way he knew how, lying louder. He hosted a live stream Q&A. Bad move. Some genius in the comments just kept spamming, who's in your pocket now, and you ain't got Jesus, you got Venmo. I watched the whole thing from my couch, drinking the coldest beer I've had in years. Scout, the mutt I adopted after the divorce, curled up beside me like he knew this was the victory lap. But Brady wasn't done yet. He still had one card left, Carrie. I should have expected it. When a man's burning down, he grabs whatever's nearby to cushion the fall. 3 days after the Q&A flop, Carrie showed up at my place. Not uninvited, we still shared custody after all, but the visit wasn't about Mason. She stood on my porch, arms crossed, wearing the look she used to give me when I forgot to fold the laundry. He says you set him up, she said. No hello. I leaned on the doorframe. Did I tie him to a chair and force him to call the congregation sheep? Because if so, I really should have gone to law school. She didn't laugh. But she didn't defend him either. I just don't want Mason caught in the middle. That's when I realized she knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. You know what he is now, I said. And you brought him into our son's life. Into your home. You let him twist things. About me. About the church. That's on you. She nodded, eyes glassy but firm. Then she said the one thing I never thought I'd hear. I'm sorry, Tyler. I didn't see it. I didn't say anything. Just stepped back and let her in to grab Mason's overnight bag. The next week, Brady officially withdrew from the race. His campaign page went dark. No press release. No apology. Just silence. But it was the kind of silence I could live with. The kind where the wolf stops howling and the sheep finally sleep. Some men go out with a bang. Brady Connolly went out with a bounce, specifically a bounce check. About a month after he ghosted from the county commissioner race, word started spreading through town that his campaign funds had dried up. His staffers, mostly eager college kids and a few unfortunate interns from a local Christian college, hadn't been paid. One of them posted a screenshot of a $150 check marked insufficient funds with the caption, Turns out faith doesn't cover payroll. That was the last public whisper of Brady in New Bibb. He didn't come back to Facestone. Didn't call Carrie. Didn't so much as send a newsletter. I'd heard from someone at his old seminary that he was taking time to realign spiritually. Translation, he was probably holed up somewhere with a mirror, trying to figure out how the man who thought he could out-God the truth got taken down by a mechanic with a guitar and a grudge. I never told anyone. Never went public. Not even when folks started guessing. You know how many people privately messaged me after all this? 12. 12 people, former choir members, church deacons, parents of youth group kids, messaged me to say something like, I had a feeling something was off. You didn't deserve that. We were wrong not to speak up sooner. And you know what? I didn't respond to most of them. Not out of spite, but because I didn't need it. Not anymore. But the letter I kept. It showed up in my mailbox 3 weeks after Brady's withdrawal. No return address, typed label, plain white envelope. Inside was a single sheet of printer paper, folded once, with words that looked like they'd been punched into the keyboard by a man trying not to shake. Tyler, you were right. I was arrogant. I used the pulpit as a stepping stone, not a place of service. You exposed me. And I deserved it. I can't undo what I said about you. But I want you to know I heard it all back. Every clip. Every word. And the worst part is I believed what I said at the time. I don't know what I believe now. But I'm trying to figure it out. Brady. I read it once. Then again. Then I folded it and slid it into the back of my guitar case, behind a capo I haven't used since the day I stopped playing at Faith Stone. Scout barked from the porch and I stepped outside into the dusk. Mason was in the yard throwing a baseball up and catching it barehanded. He waved. I waved back. Nothing fancy. That night, while Mason slept and Scout snored at my feet, I picked up my old Alvarez, tuned it slow, and strummed a few chords I hadn't played in months. Nothing religious. Just muscle memory. My fingers still remembered. So did the town. And somewhere out there, I like to think Brady does too. I didn't burn him. I just held up a mirror. I don't remember the exact Sunday the church tried to officially welcome me back. All I know is that the envelope they sent smelled like floral perfume and guilt. Inside was a "We Miss You" card signed by half the board and Pastor Jenkins, written in the same tone people use when they hope you've moved on from the time they stabbed you in the ribs and borrowed your lawnmower. They even included a note inviting me to rejoin the worship team in any capacity. A clean slate. Just like that. No mention of Brady. No mention of the Whisper campaign, the board meetings I wasn't invited to, or the months I was treated like the emotionally unstable elephant in the sanctuary. Just come back, Tyler. All is forgiven. Here's the thing, when you spend your whole life being quiet, people forget you have teeth. They mistake calm for weakness. And when you finally do bite back, suddenly you're the villain in someone else's story. But I wasn't interested in their version of forgiveness. Not if it meant pretending none of it happened. I didn't need to be restored to the fold. I wasn't lost. They were. That Sunday morning, instead of walking back through the doors of Faith Stone, I took Mason fishing. We drove out to Lake Tobesofkee in my old Chevy, lines in the back, lunch packed in a cooler, radio humming along with songs Mason didn't know the words to. He caught a bluegill. I caught nothing. We both agreed it was my fault for using the wrong bait and not being mysterious enough to fish. We didn't talk about Brady. Or the church. Or forgiveness. We talked about baseball cards and his upcoming school project on otters. It was perfect. That evening, after I dropped him off at Carrie's, she handed me a book he forgot, something about space. Then she said, "You're a good dad, Tyler." I don't say it enough. She didn't have to. Not anymore. I nodded, and that was that. Back at my place, I made a cup of coffee, opened the porch windows, and pulled out my guitar. Played a little. Just a few chords. It felt like brushing dust off a memory. And then I remembered the letter from Brady tucked behind my capo. I took it out, read it again in the soft lamplight. I don't know what I believe now. I didn't feel sorry for him. But I didn't hate him either. Hate is a heavy thing to carry. And I've spent enough time dragging broken things around. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. It's not fire and fury. It's truth, slow, patient, and deeply inconvenient for the person who thought they'd never have to face it. I didn't blow up his life. He did. I just made sure the light hit it. It's funny how the world just keeps going. The church held a revival in August, new banners, new youth director, some poor college grad with a sincere handshake and a voice 2 octaves too soft, and an overcompensating sermon series called Restored by Fire. I heard about it secondhand through Mary Hall, who still leaves me voicemails even though she claims she never trusted that Wi-Fi junk. Apparently, they're trying to rebuild trust in the community. Healing, they call it. I'm not bitter. Not really. If the sanctuary needs fresh paint and a few new faces to forget what happened, so be it. Churches are like ships. They'll patch the sails and keep sailing, even if they lost a few good crewmates overboard. But me, I'm done with ships. I bought land. Literally. 3 months after everything fell apart. I used what little savings I had. plus a bit from a quiet settlement I never talk about, and put a down payment on a small fixer-upper on the edge of Gray County. It's nothing fancy. A porch swing that doesn't creak. A barn I haven't figured out what to do with yet. And just enough space between me and the nearest neighbor that I can breathe deep again. Scout runs free. Mason spends weekends chasing frogs and building rock forts. He told me once that my new house feels like somewhere the sky gets to rest. I wrote that down. I play guitar again. Not in front of anyone, not on a stage. Just for me. For the porch. For the morning sun. Sometimes Carrie and I sit out back during handoffs. We're not friends. Not quite. But we're something that doesn't require apologies anymore. She doesn't ask about Brady. I don't offer. He's a ghost now. I don't know where he is. Don't care. But every now and then I think about what he said in that letter. I believed what I said at the time. That line stuck with me. Because I get it. We all believe our own lies if we repeat them enough. I used to believe being quiet made me safe. That if I just kept my head down, showed up, did my part, people would do right by me. I thought silence was strength. But silence isn't strength. Strength is knowing when to speak. Knowing when to fight back with truth. When to hold the line not out of vengeance, but because someone needs to. Brady taught me that. Not in the way he wanted to, but still. So if you're out there, quiet, stepped on, overlooked, just know this, you don't have to burn it all down to win. Sometimes you just have to tell the story. And then let the fire light itself.